Hey everybody, this is Carla, and welcome to an all new episode of Projectized, the Project Management Show. So it's December 30th, 2019. It's 2 days before not just the end of the year, but the end of the entire decade. And I wanted to use this episode of Projectized to discuss something that's very important, project closure and how appropriate it is right now. Because remember, with Projectize, I do three things: the business of project management, how businesses use project management, and obtaining project management certification. So I wanted to use this opportunity in this time to discuss project closure because oftentimes one of the greatest reasons for project failure or success is based on how you close. And it's oftentimes not thought of because it's currently the only project management process that's in the closing processing group. So I wanted to use this opportunity to help people. So this is a copy of the Project Management Body of Knowledge, 6th edition, which is from the Project Management Institute. And I'm going to go over a formal definition and then go through the inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs. So, per the Project Management Body of Knowledge, closed project or phase is the process of finalizing all activities for the project, phase, or contract. The key benefits of this process are that the project and phase information is archived, the plan work is completed, and the organizational team resources are released to pursue new endeavors. This process is performed once or at a predefined point in the project. That's very important because the title says project or phase. So, in certain agile environments, you can have go or no go phases, and you would use this process at the go or no go phase. It doesn't always have to be a waterfall, which is traditional predictive, where you go lockstep. One processing group follows another. So the thing with 6th edition is you have agile consideration. So the inputs for a closed project or phase are the project charter, uh, the project management plan, all components of it. So there's 10 subsidiary plans of the project management plan. All of these would be in there, as well as all of the baselines. So you have three: the scope baseline, schedule baseline, and cost baseline. Everything is in there. Three project documents, assumption log. It log all of your project assumptions up into this point, the basis of estimates, which gives you the rationale or the reasons for creating specific estimates, project estimates, the change log, which logs all your changes, the issue logs, any issues you had on the project, lessons learned register, where throughout the project you wrote down what's worked, what hasn't worked, where you can improve, your milestone list. As I mentioned, if you're doing phases, that's where you would have that. Project communications, because you will be closing communications with the performing organization as well as the customer, because you're communicating project closure, quality control, measurements to make sure that the product, service, or result is up to standard, agreed upon standard. That's within either the contract and or the project management plan, specifically quality management plan, the quality reports, requirements documentation to make sure that the requirements were specified in the contract, the risk register to see um, uh, individual risk, overall risk, and how the project manager, you and your project team have dealt and resolved risk or mitigate risk. The risk report chronicling the overall risk exposure and the strategies that you and implemented, the strategy and risk responses for the risk report, accepted deliverables, which came out of a verified scope in the project scope management knowledge area. Furthermore, you also have business documents. So these two documents are the project manager is not responsible for, because the business analyst is, because it says business documents, not project documents. So the business case, the business management plan, agreements, which are contracts, procurement documentation, especially when you do a make or buy decision and you decide to buy from a third party, and then organizational process assets. You also have your tools and techniques, expert judgment, data analysis, specifically document analysis, which is just making sure all of the documents that you use are relevant, have all of the information that you will need. Regression analysis, which is statistical technique to see um, how things perform, like your reports, your scope baseline, your schedule baseline, your cost baseline. Another thing is trend analysis to make sure that you also see whether or not it's an outlier, how things are progressing or performing at your certain time period. So in project management with time period, it can be hourly, daily, weekly, monthly. You as a project manager and your team will sit down and write that out in a project management plan, and you will see how your performance trends, comparing it to certain time periods, to see whether or not there's increases or decreases in either your scope, your schedule, your cost, your requirements, anything that will help you get the project objective. Then you also have variance analysis, and variance analysis is comparing what you planned in a project management plan versus what actually happened. So you're comparing plan versus actual. Then you also have meetings. The outputs are project document updates, which is an updated lessons learned register. This is something I want to impart and bring upon you. The lessons learned register that's an output is not the same lessons learned register that's in the input. So in the input is coming into the process, and then after you do your tools and techniques, you have an updated lessons learned register. So it's different. The second one is final product, service, or result transition. So you're transitioning from you being a project manager to actual customer. The final report, regarding the project, what went well, what didn't go well, the service, everything is in the final report. By now, you would have released all of the people, any material you've had, but you still have to do a report as a project manager. And then finally, organizational process of asset updates. Once again, the outputs for organizational process asset updates are different than the inputs, because it's going through a change with the tools and the techniques. So this is the project closure 4.7, which is in the 6th edition. And I just want to take this time, since it was December, to go over this particular process, and so that you can have a better understanding of how to do project closure correctly when you're doing project management. So that's this episode of Projectized. Once again, I'm very big on making sure that you complete or pass the CAPM and the project management professional certification as soon as possible. You do know that July 1st, 2020, the project management professional certification exam will change, even though it's December. Once things get going in the new year, you look up, it will be April or May. So make sure that you get out in front of it. And if you do need help passing the CAPM or the PMP exam, you can get in touch with me at carlarjenkins.com/work. So I would like to thank everyone for taking out the time to watch this training, and I'll see everybody in the next episode of Projectized. Goodbye.